Here we go. Another Diablo 4 feedback video. So in this video we're going to talk about Season of Blood, obviously, some of the good, some of the bad, and provide some examples on how we can make this turd a little bit shinier. So this is my second character. I am leveling a sorcerer right now, and this will probably be my last character. I just wanted to do it because sorcerer is giga broken right now. For anybody that doesn't know, just go ball lightning sorcerer and you win it the entire game. So just a fun little tip for you. So jumping right into it, the first thing I want to talk about, the good, right? It's the shorter list. So the horse, right? So your actual mount is a lot better. It's very smooth. It's faster. You can definitely feel that it's faster. You get these, everybody knows what I'm talking about, the stutter though sometimes, and I think that happens also with just when you have high fast movement abilities. I wonder if that's anything to do with server lag and not so much the mount itself. But the mount feels 100% better. Definitely a good change. So happy they did that. So the next thing is the resistances, right? These are great. 1,000% better than where they were at. This is just a testament to, like, I don't even know what they were thinking before, right? They feel so much better. It adds a layer of value to the items that they sorely needed. And the items, which we'll get into, need a lot more love as well. But this is a good start. They changed the way the formula works, essentially, and made resistances actually matter versus stacking armor. So that's a massive change. Adds a lot of value to the items. The next thing, and this is probably the biggest one for me personally, was the Reknown and gem quality of life changes. So Reknown alone is the only reason I got characters as high as I have and getting the characters to complete all the endgame activities, because Reknown was such a slog, right? It didn't take an enormous amount of time to do if you actually hard grinded to do it, but it was enough time for me that it wasn't worth it to do a mind-numbing activity that had zero fun whatsoever. So when Blizzard goes into these things, if they look at something that should be account-wide, just make it account-wide. Like, if it would make sense, what I'm saying. So if it would feel bad to do that thing over and over and over again, just make it account-wide so that way the audience doesn't have to deal with it, because that's just going to be a deterrent for the future players. So that was what's good. Now let's talk about what's bad. The first thing is itemization, right? I think we can all agree that it's a little bit lackluster, and right now it feels very weird. So what I'm talking about is they removed the Trinity, right? The holy Trinity of crit damage, crit chance, and vulnerable damage. So we're kind of like in this weird situation where every build just feels mediocre to get damage stats on. Like, every damage stat doesn't feel insane to get, right? There should always be a situation where you have a perfect stat for your build. But right now that's not the case. I don't think the problem necessarily was that there was crit chance, crit damage, and vulnerable. I just think that that was the absolute best given that given the situation for all the builds. There's not enough stats in the game to make builds feel significant enough without the Holy Trinity, right? So there's not enough options, essentially. And then when we run into like stuff like this on, let me see here, right here. The 18 plus life regen while not damaged recently. There's just a lot of these like weird stats, essentially. It's like percent damage while doing the chitty chitty bang bang on a Tuesday kind of thing. And it's just, it feels weird to do. It's like you can fit it into builds and you can make it work, but it doesn't like correlate with like most of the gameplay that you're going to want to do. And that's what happens when you have extremely limited itemization in a game like this, is we're going to get to a point where you're just stacking the same stat again anyways. We'll find a new Holy Trinity because there's not enough options to substantiate choosing anything else, right? Eventually, you know, let's say crit damage ends up being the best again. People will just try to get as much crit damage again as possible. Whatever the case is, we'll always end up leaning back to one stat no matter what. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the abilities in the game. Right now they feel just like a bit stagnant to me, except for like a couple builds, that feel actually different. But for the majority, they do feel stagnant. They added more legendaries, which is great. They plan to do that with each season, so I'm very happy they're deciding to do that. But they need to do something else to make the abilities give the players choice and make them critically think on how they actually want to play this build and how they want it to play out. So I was thinking of some ideas of like what they could do, and I was thinking of like PoE and corruption, right? So what if, you got a legendary piece of gear that was corrupted or, whatever, and it changed one of your abilities. And let's say in this case, this corrupted legendary changed Flame Shield. So what it would do is essentially change it to where it's on you permanently. It removes the immune effects, so you're not invulnerable. And instead of protecting you from damage, it actually makes you take damage. But in exchange, it gives the burning an increased damage modifier. So you kind of like turn it into like a righteous fire type thing, right? And you could do that to like every single ability, and change them up however you want and corrupt the ability. You could add legendary aspects, to where you could get this legendary piece of gear basically will make your core skills shoot 3 to 5 projectiles depending on how lucky the drop is. And in exchange, the projectiles do 60% less damage or something like that, right? So it gives a negative, but it gives a positive. So it gives player choice and makes the player actually think a little bit to decide if that's going to be beneficial for their build. Because right now, the way it feels is like, you get the Ice Shards legendary. It's like Ice Shards now penetrates and, does like a little bit less damage, but it doesn't, the best choice is to always wear this. That's the thing with legendaries. The best choice is to always wear whatever it is that you find for that ability. There's no like thought that goes into it. And that's what I think these corruptions and like non-focused type legendaries could do for the game. And I guess that leads me into my next point, which is the crafting, or rather their lack thereof in this game. So everybody knows you can upgrade the item and make them a little bit more powerful item power wise, and you can go over to the Oculus and change a stat, or go to the Jewel Crafter and upgrade a gem. But these are all very basic and floor level crafting systems. Doesn't feel very impactful, especially for the amount of different materials that are in the game. I mean, if we look at how many materials actually are in this game, it's insane, right? Gallow vine, like I'm just scrolling down. That's so many different possible crafting mats that we could actually put towards a good crafting system in this game. Maybe they could put this towards crafting better maps. When I think of the Atlas tree in PoE, we could craft our maps with these. We could maybe use these to craft abilities, to boost the ability's damage or change it in some way. Like maybe 20 Gallow Vine or, however many Gallow Vine and something else augments an ability to make it do something else, right? So just kind of getting creative with the crafting. It doesn't even have to be gear all the time. I think so many times ARPGs pigeonhole themselves with crafting. It has to be gear. It has to be gear. There's so many things that you could craft if you really put your mind towards it, And you know what we need if we have good crafting, right? Stash tabs. More stash space in an ARPG. Can you believe it? I mean, I think this is the biggest joke of all. It's insane how the tech is not there in this game to provide a better stash tab experience, right? I mean, they did get rid of the gem thing, which is great. Maybe they can do that same thing with the aspects. This guy's level 45, and look how many aspects I have. I'm not even getting a lot of legendary drops, but I just have a crap ton of aspects because you have to save them because you put them onto the next gear piece, right? When you get an upgrade, and you need it because it's a core part of your gameplay. Like if you're a ball lightning build, you want the orbiting gravitational thing, right? So you have to save 50 copies of it in case you get good pieces of gear. When you run out of aspect space, you have to put it in your stash, and then all of a sudden you have 40 different legendaries in there with the same aspect. So they should do something about that to increase the amount of stash space in the game. It's an ARPG. It's an absolute joke to not have a large amount of stash space in a game where you literally collect items as the purpose. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the seasonal mechanic, the vampiric powers. So these are okay. I mean, they're not especially cool, or like I said, there's nothing in the game that feels substantially game changing, which they need to do with abilities and itemization, I feel like. So in the case of vampiric powers, they feel like a set it and forget it kind of thing. I know for a fact I'm not going to be changing any of these for my build. You know, even all the way to 100 and while at 100, I just kind of set it, forget it, and it is what it is. And then can we also talk about the abomination of a cookie clicker that this is? I literally click it to level it up, allocate XP, close, and then I just keep doing it again. And I have to hope that I get my actual vampiric powers that I need to upgrade them. So if they're going to do something like this is what I meant by if it should be account bound, make it account bound. If they're going to add a insane leveling experience like this where you have to click every time and hope that you get it, these should be account bound. This is just crazy. And with the abomination of the cookie clicker simulator, the place where you get cookie clicker ammo is right here. So these are blood harvest events, or Helltides Reskinned. Essentially, you go around killing mobs and you get your cookie clicker ammo. I kind of like these more, okay? So I do like them more. You can start them at level 1. They do quickly wear themselves out because of the importance that they actually put behind these. So the Bloodseekers and the other little events that are within these feel nice to do, but like I said, it ends up being a large portion of what you do for a very long time, so it gets boring kind of quick. But this was a positive change in some way. It was kind of cool. The thing I did not like is the Legion event. So there's this area where you have to put in 50 blood lures, and then somebody else has to put in 50, and someone else has to put in 50, and it requires multiple people to do it. I've only done 3 of them my entire playthrough because I can never get enough, and I don't have a party to do them with, right? And nobody's usually in the area to click it. It just always ends up in this weird situation where I have to be lucky and hope that someone clicks it and we're all on the same page, because most people will just go summon the Bloodseekers because they only cost 15, and you know, most people are playing alone anyways. So like I said, this is a good change. It was nice, but they do put too much importance behind it, and that makes it kind of get worn out and stale out pretty quick. The next thing I want to talk about are the bosses. So they added some more bosses, and they made the targeted unique dropping, so targeted uber uniques. The bosses are just a symptom of a bigger problem of this game basically being very easy. I know they made this game for the casual player, but like I discussed, I think the casual players changed completely, and they treat people like they're idiots in this game. I've talked about this at length before, but the bosses are easy. They're kind of cool fights. They're fun to do. If you have 4 brain cells, you can kill them. But the problem is there's nothing to truly challenge you in this game. There's nothing that once you get those uber uniques and once you are maxed out to the T, there's nothing that pushes you to the limit, because you're already killing everything so fast that an uber unique kills it a millisecond faster. You don't even notice it. So there needs to be an additional level of difficulty. I'm a big fan of the tier 5. I would be a tier 5 enjoyer. Raising it to that next level, maybe boost the Nightmare Dungeons, go up to 150, because Nightmare Dungeon 100 right now is like honestly a joke. You can do them far before you're level 100, and there's just nothing to super challenge you, right? There's nothing to push you and make you feel like I need this gear to actually make that possible. And for all that is holy, blessed be the Mother's name, right? Add a loot filter to the game. I don't think I need to explain why this would be a massive change for the game and a massive positive. We are playing an ARPG where 47,000 items drop per second, and it's your job to make them drop as fast as possible. Who in their right mind is going through every single yellow that drops? If you are doing that, you're out of your damn mind. You're crazy, because I do not have the time nor mental stability to push myself to do something like that. Just add a loot filter. It's 2023, old man. We need loot filters. It is what it is, okay? It's a very simple ad. Steal one from Filter Blade if you want. Make a deal with them. I don't care. Figure it out. Put one in the game. And there you have it, folks. The good, the bad, the ugly I hope they continue to work on this game. This was a step in the right direction, but there's still tons of work to do and tons of improvements and things they can do to make the game better. I feel like we're at where we should have been when the game started, but I'm not gonna, throw a fit about it. It is what it is at this point. I would recommend everybody to, make a character, do a playthrough of Season of Blood, because it is a good time if you have no other pressing games or issues to attend to. It's something to do, something to game, because your first playthrough does, it's cool to check out the changes and play them through. And the leveling feels a lot faster and nicer, so you won't have to struggle to get to endgame or feel like you're wasting your time getting to endgame. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I appreciate you.